Hey guys, Rich Lopez with the Drop Time Traditions podcast. My guest this evening is Mr. Jim Neaves of Centaur Archery. How you doing, Jim?
I'm well. How are you doing, Rich?
Excellent. Thank you for asking. Before we get into the nitty gritty, I just want to acknowledge the show supporters, which is Stickbow Country Custom Arrows, Traps Feather Rests, Traditional Bowhunter Magazine, Sauk Trail Archery, StickbowSupplies.com, Whiskey City Trad Gear, WCTrad.com, Jessie Savage Blacksmith.com, TraditionalJunk.com, St. Joe River Bow Company, TheEthicalPredator.com, and Stickbow Hunts MX, of which I will be in Mexico in 2 weeks hunting with those guys. So, funny story, Jesse Savage Blacksmith, super cool dude, send me some swag and whatnot, but he knew my wife was a big Elvis lover. So he sent an album of an Elvis Presley album that was like from the 60s for her. I thought that was pretty cool. We got that in the stereo room. She listens to it all the time. She's, I mean, like a psycho Elvis fan. So, at any rate, so Jim, tell us what's your bio background, born and raised.
Oh man, Hamilton, Montana, born and raised. I'm like seventh generation Bitterrooter. Um, love it here. Traveled around, seen a lot of different places, but this has always been home to me. Um, and as a bow hunter, it's tough to beat a state like Montana with all the different variation of species and you know all the different. I mean, that in itself is huge.
Yeah.
Some of the tags not easy to get. Some of them I've got friends that have put in for moose permits for 50 years before they've run them.
Wow.
So easy. But sitting in a tree stand here in Hamilton, I can have a black bear walk by, I can have a mule deer walk by, I can have a whitetail, an elk, a moose. Um, no buffalo or anything like that, but
Right.
there's turkeys, coyotes. There's really a lot of stuff that happens. So it's a neat place.
Yeah, we probably have some of the same friends because you've been there since day one.
Yep.
I'm very close with the Wenzel brothers. Um,
Yeah. Gene,
yeah.
Gene and I've never met Barry, but I've met Gene and known Gene for a lot of years. He used to be my dad's chiropractor
Okay.
back in the day. And I've had the opportunity to hunt with Gene for the last couple of years.
Cool.
And that's been fun. I got to go out with him a few different times and just kind of hang around him, listen to stories
Oh,
and
he's
be there.
got,
And
yeah. How about the Kelzer family?
I don't know them. No,
Okay.
I've never met them.
Yeah, they tell me stories about Gene, like, and I know Gene personally for since I was 18. Um,
Wow.
actually, him and his brother were doing a seminar in New Jersey. That's where I was born and raised. And
Mm-hmm.
I was dating this absolute smoking hot Italian chick, and she was really pissed off because I couldn't take her out Saturday night because I wanted to go to this seminar. I mean, she gave me
Yeah.
so much. She gave me such a hard time. I dumped her, and then I
Obviously
went.
was not a bow hunter.
No. So when I got to the seminar and I met Gene and Barry first time ever, I told them what I did, and they thought that was hilarious. And to this day, they still bring it up as a joke.
I think that was a good move on your part, man.
It was, yeah, it was kind of, yeah. And I've only been with I had a first wife, and now I'm on my second wife of going on 40 years, and she just loves the fact that I go bow hunting and all that. She doesn't hunt, but
Yeah.
she grew up in a hunting family, so I'm in the perfect world.
So she understands it and
Yeah, absolutely. She loves butchering game.
oh wow.
So I
That's
bring
nice.
stuff home, and what I do is I take it apart, I quarter it in the garage, and then I bring it all into her, and she'll grind and debone and do all that stuff. It's a big
Wow.
party.
That's a great partner.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So, how did you get started in archery? Was that something self-taught, or was it a family member?
I was the only archer in my family. I'm one of five kids and nobody was really ever interested, but I was different. I'd like to after school and whatnot, I'd like to go down to the river bottom. I grew up right next to the Bitterroot River, right on the edge of town. And so, as a kid, I always had a pellet gun and stuff like that.
Right.
But archery, it was just something I was just really interested in. I don't know
Mm.
what it is. I mean, even like throwing a frisbee out in the yard or whatever. I just like to watch things fly, kind of that. And my dad, he was running a second hand business when I was a kid, and and I told him, you know, he go to the auctions all the time. I said, hey, if you can find a little bow, I don't care what it is,
Mhm.
compound trad bow. You know, as a kid, you just want to watch an arrow fly, and I was just interested in shooting. And so that being
Yes, sir.
said, I just, you know, whenever the opportunity arose and he'd pick something up, I mean, sometimes it'd be a little, I think my first one was a little bear compound, little white riser and brown limbs. It was a unique little thing. But I didn't care, you know, and hey, let's get some hay bales and tack up some of the little paper targets that didn't last very long, but
Mhm.
they had you know, it was a photo of an animal. So I was always intrigued by that. I'm like, hey, look at this. You can shoot at that. But no, I don't know. There was just an interest there that I can't explain because no, it was never taught to me. I was basically self-taught and just had my own interest and
Yep. It was the
just one.
same for me. It was the same
Yeah.
for me. Yeah, I learned about archery watching The American Sportsman on ABC. And I was about 9 years old at my grandmother's. Parents are separated or divorced actually. And so my mom would drop me off at my grandmother's and I'd
Mhm.
spend the weekends there. And I'm flipping through the channels and I'm sitting there, sitting in the living room, Indian style on the floor. And here comes this ABC's Wide World of Sportsmen, and it's Fred Bear hunting polar bears. And I'm
Oh.
like, whoa, what is this? And I was like, oh, wow, that is so cool. And, back then they sensationalized it with the music and all that real epic, like well
Mhm.
produced stuff. So that just blew my mind. So my mom came to pick me up and I told her what I wanted to do. And she says, what is this? And so I went, let's go to the library. So I went to the library and I showed her books and I found Fred Bear's field notes. And I opened it up and pointed at the polar bear and whatnot. And she goes, okay, well, she totally invested her time and effort into me becoming an archer. So there's a local archery shop. She took me there. I bought my feathers. I bought a small fletching jig and I learned to make arrows. My uncle had a bow that he shot, just field archery, just messing around. It was a thing to do in the 60s. And I said, I want that bow. And he goes, well, when you can pull it back, you can have it. So immediately I'm 9 years old doing push-ups, doing everything I could. And finally he strung it up and I pulled it back, held it for 3 seconds. He goes, you can have it. And I
Nice.
killed my first deer with that bow. It
Wow.
took a while. It took 7 years. I didn't get my hunting license until I was 14. But yeah, there was a lot of time killing my mother's azalea bushes with arrows and neighbors' rabbits and stuff and whatever. But at any rate, that's an awesome start for archery for you. And now
Yeah,
the bow,
your story is much more epic than mine. It's mine.
yeah, there's a lot of epic everything in my life. So we know
Yeah,
some of
yeah,
the
that's
same
great.
people. So that'll tell you something. Um, so the bow hunting aspect of it, when did that come into play and how did that come into play?
Well, I mean, in Montana, you really can't get your license till you're 12, I guess.
Okay.
And that's basically, you know, and I knew that, and so I pretty much just you know, practiced a lot and shot bows and gradually increased in poundage and everything. I got my first actual hunting bow, which was um, it was actually a little compound bow I got from Gordy and Dwayne when they used to own Selway Archery, and just north of Hamilton. And my dad went with me, and it was a little 35 to 50 pounder, and I had bought it, you know, prior to the hunting season. I think it was that summer, and little Martin Lynx, you know, and I was just nobody ever taught me anything. I just, you know, hey, I want to do this, and just started practicing with that and kind of built up. And I think it was within 2 or 3 weeks of having that thing at the 35-pound setting, I was all the way at 50. I mean, I was
Okay.
pulling it back, and of course, you know, once it cams over, you can hold it forever. But that was, you know, I was 12 years old, and that's when I just kind of started getting into it, you know, and I went out that first year. A buddy was with me, and I shot a doe. Well, right that river bottom area that I grew up next to. Gosh, I walked down there. There's an old area. It was called the Black Gate, and once you go past that, you're in this area. You know, it's pretty wild. And you go a few hundred yards, and there's a river. But it was probably 20 or 30 yards past the Black Gate. Walk in, and there's a doe standing there. And you know, I drew back everything. My buddy was with me, Ryan Richards, and I drew back and I got it just right. And then she was kind of quartering away, and I turned it loose. And man, if I didn't hit her in the rump, you know, in the hams, and oh man, you know, hey, this is horrible. And the thing, she ran like 30 yards and tipped over. I hit the femoral artery,
Ah, beautiful.
and I was, you know, not a sensational story by any means, but it was a quick, clean kill for considering the shot placement. And I felt bad at first, and I thought, well, hey, she's down and she's down hard, and man, right from then on, I was just hooked. I'm like, I can't not do this. This is part of what I want to do, you know.
Right.
So that
Yeah.
was kind of my very first hunt, and while it's not very sensational or anything, it was definitely kind of whetting the appetite for hunting and just enjoying being out there and getting kind of kicked off, you know.
Yeah. I still can't get enough. I'm going to be 66. And dude, every time hunting season starts, I start getting that. I get like manic, like,
Yeah,
uh, it's almost like a drug,
yeah,
an addiction.
yeah. Just it's you get out there, you look forward to that time in the woods, and
Mhm.
my wife has said in the past, why do you enjoy killing things? Or this? I go, that's really not it. I said, I really
No.
just enjoy being out there in hunting season. It's almost like you said, you just kind of look forward to that time when it's time to get
Right.
going, and get out there more often. And you just, you know, I guess for some people, if you have to explain it to them, I don't know if they'll ever understand it, but and of course, you enjoy the vittles. I mean, it's you get it,
Yeah.
you get them down, but it's not about I mean, that's a bonus, but I've just always enjoyed being out there, watching the sunrise, watching things come to life. I do a lot of filming when I hunt now. I just it
Me
gives me
too.
something to do. I'm a busy guy, and while I can sit there and do nothing, I like to take my video camera with me and just film the sunrise and film chickadees coming in and landing on the pine branches next to me, and squirrels doing their thing, and deer
Yeah.
moving distance, and so I don't know. It's a peaceful, quiet time for me, and I need that sometimes in my life.
Yeah. I think killing an animal, killing anything for that matter, is anticlimactic. And I think what it is, it's an inner instinct, if you will, to just want to be out amongst nature and see things
Yeah,
that other people will never ever see in their lifetime. I mean,
yeah,
I remember
that's right.
sitting in a tree stand. I lived in Maryland for 40 years, so I hunted the Eastern Shore there, which is like it's a known mecca for big bucks.
Hmm.
So sitting in a tree stand, and I look over, and there's this grazed tree frog climbing up this pine tree that's next to my stump, if you will, my tree that I'm in. And I could reach out and touch it if I wanted to.
Yeah.
I didn't pay attention. I had this black sweater on, like a crew neck underneath my camo, and I didn't think anything about it. And I left the stand for lunch. I go over to my truck, and I'm sitting there, and I felt something on my stomach. I'm like, what is this? So I lifted up my shirt, and there's a grazed tree frog stuck to my stomach. I guess it was so cold out there, wanted to seek out warmth.
He found you.
Yeah, so I just, took a picture of it and picked, took it off and put it on a tree, and then yeah, that was pretty cool.
Well, it's little things like that people don't understand. If you're not out there, you never get that opportunity. And you know, and back to like the question that people say, well, why do you like to kill stuff? It's to me, it's not really like that.
Mhm.
I look at it from a biblical standpoint. God says, and they will be as meat for you. That so hey, he's the creator. He created everything. He's giving his blessing. If we want to take an animal, and we're buying tags, we're doing it legally through the system of the government and everything. So I look at it like, hey, I've got a blessing to do that. If I wanted to harvest an
Mhm.
animal and process that and eat it and share it with friends and give it away
Yeah.
or donate it or whatever I want to do, I don't see the harm there, and
No, I
but
agree. Yep.
you'll see some people that go and stuff their face at McDonald's and other places, and boy, they just look down at hunters like crazy. And it's like, where'd you get your meat there? They
Right.
don't think about that. They go through the grocery store and they think, oh, well, meat comes in cellophane. You know,
Right. No.
so
If 300 years ago, meat didn't come in anything other than at the end of your arrow or at
yeah,
the end
really,
at the end of your rifle. Not 300 years ago, just basically a spear and a bow and arrow.
sure.
Hey, I got a question. Are you on a laptop or are you using your phone?
It's my phone. I don't
Okay.
I don't have
So
the.
if you turn your phone rectangular wise, will it turn you rectangular? Let's check it out.
Oh, it probably will. Is
There you are.
that better?
Yeah, I got you widescreen now.
Perfect. Yeah, I was using a little tripod, but this will work. I'll angle it a little bit here. And I think that'll be just about right.
Yeah,
There.
perfect. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Excellent. Nice background. Um,
That's just my office. It's full of shipping and receiving boxes and
yeah.
bubble wrap and all that stuff, but it gets the job done.
Yeah, my spare bedroom is my shipping department, and the other bedroom is for the grandkids. But I've got bows in every room.
There you
So,
go. I
yeah.
like it.
And I got bows in the garage, and I got bows under the bed in my master bedroom.
That's
So,
interesting because you would think as a bowyer myself that I'd have bows everywhere, but I've got just a few hanging around. Um, I own two personally, a long bow and a super curve, and that's it. Well, I should I have some self bows from over
mhm.
the years, and a few buddies made me some horn bows and things, but ultimately I don't. You'd think as a bow maker you'd have a ton of that stuff around, and I really don't.
Most bowyers don't have a lot of bows for themselves. Just the two that they hunt with, or three. You
Yeah.
know,
Yep.
what's that over your right shoulder behind you,
What are we looking at?
right there, by the underneath the bear?
Oh, that's one. That's
Okay,
a that's one of the long bows.
excellent. So, how
Yeah.
did Centaur archery come into fruition?
Um, I guess full time probably around 2000, but in 1995 I started tinkering with self bows. A buddy of mine, his dad had made a really nice Osage bow, and I always thought that was neat. Just a solid stick of wood. And he actually got with Dick Robertson, and Dick kind of guided him through building a self bow, and then he sinew backed it and put bull snake skins on it. And I was always intrigued by that, and
Hmm?
I really enjoyed woodworking in high school and things like that. And I always worked with my hands, built a lot of things, and I said, man, I got to do this. This is neat. I got to give that a try. And I got into the Bowyer Bibles and whatnot, and started learning about all the basics and compression and tension and how to follow grain layers and so on and so forth, and what you learn building self bows. And I started doing it, and I really enjoyed it. And I did that for on the side for a few years after I graduated high school. I'd worked at I did some cabinet type work, and then I did seamless rain gutters and garage doors for a little bit, and it's certain different things, sprinkler system. But in the evenings, I would I had there's a little shop behind my grandfather's building that he owned, and he told me if I clean that out, and because again, he and my dad would go to the secondhand, or they had the secondhand store, but they would go to these auctions
Mhm.
and get stuff. Well, he would end up, hey, throw in this box, throwing that. When an item wouldn't move, he'd end up, hey, throw this box. They try to move a whole lot of stuff, right? And so they would take that lot and just throw it into this room back here, and it was stacked to the ceiling. And it wasn't very big; it was probably about 450 square feet. But my grandpa Walt, he said, "Hey, son, if you want to use that and start building bows and do things back there, you can." If you clean it all out and insulate it and get it wired and all that stuff, you can just, rent free kind of thing. So I did that, and I started doing laminated bows. And I actually learned that process from the gentleman that works with me now. His name is Daryl Forsland, and I've known Daryl for roughly 30 years. And he had a company called Wildwood Archery, and he also worked for Howard Hill Archery. So he was building bamboo back bows, and I looked him up. I had been building self bows for a few years, and I looked Daryl up, and he says, come on up sometime. He says, I'll show you kind of, what I was interested because he says, well, I don't follow a grain layer. I violate that, and then I back it with bamboo. And I said, oh, that's interesting. And I didn't know a whole lot at the time,
Mhm.
and but I was really intrigued by it. I was just enamored with, hey man, you can build something here, you can go out, you can viably hunt with it, you can take your own game. And I didn't grow up with a lot of money either. I mean, dad worked hard, there was a lot of kids to support, and wife and home and business and stuff. So we just kind of, what you had is what you had, and you did the best with it.
All right.
And so all that being said, I ended up getting a hold of Daryl. I went up there. He taught me how to laminate. He showed me kind of, like how the air hose system worked, for compressing everything down to glue it up and all that. And once I learned that process, man, I just kind of went hog wild after that. I was kind of looking at different designs and whatnot, and then I just as an artist, I kind of come up with my own stuff. I mean, I'd looked at some things that were similar, but I'd go a little more radical, or I'd tweak things a little bit. And I just started doing that. And still, in the evenings, I mean, I was working full-time job and whatnot, but the more I did it, the more I just became enthralled by it, and it got to the point, I think around 2000, I had been gluing up this similar bows to what I'm making now. They had a little longer riser, and they weren't quite as refined and whatnot, but um, people were starting to recognize them. And I was working for Gordy over at Selway Archery,
Hmm.
putting quivers together and whatnot. And Gordy had noticed that, he really liked the way my bow shot and everything. And at some point, he asked me to start gluing up the Selway bows for him off of my bow for him. And then he would work the handles and whatnot. And we'd kind of collaborate together to put these bows together. And at the same time, I thought, hey, what would be, I'm a Sagittarius. My birthday's in November. And so that's the sign of the archer. And I thought, oh, that's the centaur, it's the symbol. Maybe that might be a good logo for my
Yep.
bows. And people would kind of, over time, they see that logo and they'd start to relate that with a bow that they were familiar with, that they'd seen, heard about over the years. Because I really planned on doing this full time. And it was right around 2000 I went full time. So
I
it
got
just kind
a,
of an integrated process that just became more and more. And eventually I quit the other job and just rolled into this full time. And it was
no
something
looking back.
I've just rolled with ever since. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, I just love your bows. I follow you all the time. I just went kind of like, it was kind of like a bromance with your photos over the weekend. I'm pulling photos out of your Facebook page because
oh, sure.
when I promote this episode, I wanted to grab a picture of you with some game. I wanted to grab some of your bows so I could do a
Mhm.
collage with a promo. Um, this is a true story. Back in the, I'm going to say mid to late 70s. I'm an illustrator artist. That's my hobby, if you will, besides doing bows. I was always known for drawing centaurs. Okay.
Oh,
So I drew a centaur and we went to it was a field trip to the School of Visual Arts in New York City. And there was a European artist there named Erte. He was in that genre with Salvador Dali, like kind of out there.
okay.
And he was sitting at a table and he was entertaining questions and whatnot. And I brought one of my pictures. So he looked at my artwork and he actually sat down with a pen and wrote a poem about me and my artwork and what it represented.
Wow.
And I still have that piece. Uh,
That's pretty neat.
yeah, that was like weird, man, because I was like, whoa, this guy's like, I never heard of him until that day. But then I looked him up on the internet at years later, many years later, when the internet came into fruition. I was like, realized who this guy really was. It was
Wow.
art celebrity, but he signed something for me personally, and I thought that was just awesome. It's like having Fred Bear's signature.
Yeah, really. Yeah. And not being starstruck, you didn't know who he was, so it probably just kind of flowed the
I
conversation.
think I was 15 or 16. I was like,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. And then my art teacher at the time, who actually became later in life as an adult, became a friend of mine, um, and taught me everything I needed to know about art and its history and art in general.
Yeah.
Um, who God
That's
rest his
funny because
soul.
I have my art teacher, and he's got to be in his 80s now. And just a few years ago, he gave me back two or three of the paintings that he used. His name was James Roth, and he's still around. And but he would, whenever I'd finish something in high school, he'd look at that and he says, you want to sell that? And I go, Mr. Roth, I go, you can have it. Just like mat it and frame it,
Right.
and it's yours. And here it is. Oh gosh, I mean, how old was I? 18, 19. I'm 49 now, and probably when I was around 45 years old, I bumped into him. He says, "Hey, come over to the house." He says, "I got a bunch of your artwork." He says, "I'm getting older, and I've enjoyed it all these years. I'd like you to have it back." And
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty neat of
That
him,
is awesome.
to do that. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, he's just a great man. Such an inspiration to me. I mean,
Yeah.
and he was it's just a neat. People would come in the classroom, and back then, they'd be cussing and stuff, and Mr. Roth would be like, "How you doing, boys?" He wouldn't get
Yeah.
mad or anything.
Yeah.
Really down to earth kind of guy.
Yeah.
What a great man.
My art teacher, he was Alan Sponzilli. We used to call him Spons. And he was just this really good looking dude. always he had a Corvette. He always had hot chicks on his arms when we had
Oh man.
dances. And I was like, he was the guy that you wanted to be.
So
Okay.
so the art teacher was just a cover up for whatever was going on there.
Well, I don't know, but every time there was a high school dance, he was obviously a chaperone. He brought a
Uh-huh.
date with him, and we were just like be hanging around him just to see her.
Wow.
And then, but
Guy
he
had some
died.
swag.
He unfortunately died, I think, at the age of 40, many years ago.
Oh wow,
But
that's young.
yeah, he
Jeez.
got sick, and yeah, he's no longer with us. But
Yeah.
great memories. And I think if it's him and my mother, because of the archery thing, between him and my mother, I think they are the ones that kept me out of becoming a hoodlum.
Mm.
You know, my buddies would be out Friday night, Saturday night, smoking weed, getting drunk and stuff. And now I'm staying home, drawing pictures and working on
Yeah.
archery stuff. And then I was always been a loner, and I went out on my own terms, not theirs. And I'm
Yeah.
still that
Boy.
way. My wife, I married my wife, of 40 years now. She's the same. She was the same way growing up, and we just have a core group of friends,
Mm-hmm.
from our high school days that we stay in touch with.
Yeah.
And, but it's
Well,
her
I
and
think
I.
there's something
That's
to be
it.
said for people that just have one or two friends or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of value there. Where there's a lot of people that go out there. Oh, everybody knows them and all that, but how many people would be there at their back if they really needed them? If you just have
Nah.
one or two, a lot of times that's a
Yeah,
blessing.
I got two males in my life that they got my back and I got theirs.
Yeah.
So, and that's it. And but that's awesome. So let's talk about your bows. Okay, how many models do you offer?
Well, I mean, I have the longbow and I have the super curve. Within the longbow, and they're glued up off the same form.
Oh,
But I basically, the all fiberglass bow, clear or colored glass, the Chimera, which is a carbon backing and a glass belly, and I've got the Carbon Elite, which is, the engineered carbon on both sides, which is different. The
hmm.
tensile carbon is completely different than the compression carbon, and then kind of a third one or a fourth one, I should say, that's latched onto those would be it, and it's just over time just kind of become coined the triple carbon.
Okay.
And what that is, it's the Carbon Elite with the addition of my XTL, or short for extreme torsional lamination. The XTL lamination can be added to any model, the glass bow, the Chimera, or the Carbon Elite. When it's
Hmm.
added to the Carbon Elite, that becomes the third layer of carbon, hence the triple carbon. So
So
basically, four models in the longbow, all the same design, just different materials, and then the super curve. And the super curve is engineered back to belly. It's the same thing every super curve because that carbon is, typically or predominantly designed for torsional stability. And I don't know if anybody else is doing this, but my super curve is only 1.5 inches wide when I glue up. So it's probably one of the most narrow super curves on the market, I would
yeah,
say.
and looking at your bows, and I that is part of my question. What is a super curve? Now, is it an extreme uh curve at the end? Like you remember the border bows? Are they like
Yeah,
really
yeah.
crazy? Okay.
It's similar. It's not quite as radical as the borders, but it's with the design and the narrower design. It, it, um, it if you go too radical, there's a lot of bows that are super wide. They're 1.75 inches, 2 inches, maybe 2 1/4. I don't know what the widest is that they use on some of the glass and carbon. I suppose carbon you can have it cut at almost any width, but a lot of those super curves that have the real radical hooks on the end and stuff, they tend to kind of have that boing,
Yeah,
after the
yeah,
shot. And I believe it's because there's so much width and they're so super thin that while they're very torsionally stable, I think longitudinally they get a little bit what I call noodly. They kind of want to just oscillate and keep going.
yeah.
My design is a little different. I'm not quite as radical or, real crazy hooks on the ends like some of those wider, thinner limb bows, but because it's an 1.5 inch wide design and it's got a thicker core, the limb tips stabilize out much quicker. So you
Hmm.
just kind of get a and then it's done. And along with the strings that I have made and then the mountain mufflers that contact between the string and the limb, right where they come together, that helps. And then between that and the Navajos, it's a really good setup to really dampen it out quick. And I'm just in love with this little design because it's got that real early preload like any super curve would have, and then it gets around 15, 16 inches and it drops down
Bam.
like pulling a half a pound an inch. And some people say, oh man, it's got a perceived let off. Well, it's not really let off. It's just a dramatic decrease in pounds per inch because those big hooks begin to give you a lot
Yeah,
of mechanical
right, they
advantage.
open up. So,
They open up and yeah.
I bought a set of border limbs. I'm a big bear archery guy for years. Um, so I had to take down, it was their B riser, the
Mm-hmm.
medium. And I bought a set of super curves from Border with the carbon and the foam core.
Mm-hmm.
And I strung it up. They looked really super cool,
Yeah.
Uh, I strung it up and I got the brace height to around 8 inches. And I shot my first arrow while my wife was filming it. And she said it sounded like a gun going off.
Oh no.
I said, okay. So I cranked it out to 9 inches on the brace height, quieted it down. Then I went to a heavier arrow, got even more quiet, but it still sounded like bam, bam. And I could feel this.
Hmm.
It almost jarred my teeth. So then I went to silencers. I must have had 6 beaver balls on that string.
Oh my goodness.
And I couldn't get rid of the noise. So I dumped those limbs. I got rid of them because I just can't shoot. So I can't hunt with something like that. I
Now,
like,
did you say that was on a bear riser?
yeah. Mhm.
So
These
did you
limbs were
have to?
made. These limbs were made for a bear riser
Oh,
by
okay.
by Border. They do offer that.
Okay. I
So,
see.
and I have shot their the actual Border manufactured bow with the super curve, and they were fast. They were amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think they're over engineered. But that's just my opinion. Hey, freedom of speech, right? So,
Yeah. Well, and that there's a lot of and I think there's a lot of the neat thing about archery now. There's so many options.
mm,
I mean, there really are. And I know that some people say, traditional bow making is a dying breed or whatever. But honestly,
nope.
and I don't know. I mean, my buddy John Schultz, before he passed away, he had given me a whole bunch of old, well, I say old, I mean from the '90s traditional bowhunter magazines, and they were just full of you know garage bowyers and names I'd never heard before. Guys that pop up to build these things and they advertise for a little bit and then you never hear about them again. And
No.
and I wonder, I go, man, I think people get into realizing like how labor intensive it is,
Yeah.
and they get all gung ho, and then they realize like, man, you not only have to like warranty this, and it's going to be in all kinds of different inclement weather, and you're asking everything of the materials. It's not just like a picture frame that you hang on a wall in a controlled environment. You're out there in all different inclement weathers, and you're just you're asking everything those materials can offer. And I see so many people come and go, and it's like, man, I wonder. But that being said, there's still a lot of really neat options out
Oh
there.
yeah, absolutely. Do you remember the name? Going back now, Jack Howard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when Jack passed away, his widow contacted me. She had 12 bows, yeah, in the shop that were in various stages of completion. Some just roughed out, some not even, just glued up. And heard that I dabbled in this. She asked me if I could finish them and sell them for her, and I did.
Hmm.
And because of that, I took no payment from her other than I think my eBay fees. That was it.
Oh
And
wow.
so, as a gift, she gave me Jack's plans for all his bows.
Oh.
So I have all his blueprints and whatnot, and so that's what I'm going to do when I retire this year.
Is play with those or get resurrect some things
I'm
there?
going to resurrect a few things, but I'm going to. He always made 66-inch bows. Mine will be 62.
Okay.
Uh, and just play around, just something to do. Like you, I'm a busy guy. I just like to stay
Yeah.
busy.
Yeah.
Um, I started this podcast I think, as a stress relief, a
Yeah.
goof, thinking it wouldn't last 5 episodes, and here I am, 150 plus.
Oh wow.
So,
That's
it's
awesome.
it's fun. So your podcast, by the way, is going to air a week ahead because I'm going to Mexico and I need to drop some episodes
Oh.
while I'm away, or on my phone.
Earlier you said you were going to Mexico to hunt, correct?
Yep. Hmm.
What are you chasing down there?
Uh, Basically, it's a javelina pig hunt. I mean, but I
Okay.
live in Florida, so there's pigs everywhere. So I
Sure.
just want to kill two huge. javelinas. Now that Pope and Young has an entry for javelinas, one of my best buddies is in top spot, and I want to supplant him.
Okay.
It's kind of a little joke between he and I.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That'll be fun. Well, hopefully that'll work out for the
yeah,
best for you on that
at the
one.
very least, I'll sleep well.
Yeah. Really.
Yeah. So yeah, the hacienda is built into the side of a dormant volcano.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'll send you a picture. It's pretty weird
That
because
sounds neat. Yeah.
you
That's,
see this hacienda and then a water tank for the facility, and then
mhm.
above it is this gigantic volcano. And I'm like,
like a typical cone looking kind of.
but a little bigger in the mouth, if you
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
But there's shrubbery in the mouth, so it's definitely dead. Thank God. You know,
Yeah.
I don't need that thing going off in the middle of the night, you know.
Yeah. Really.
But so what of your bows is the most difficult to build that you found?
I mean, I would say the super curve, and the only reason I say that is and not excuse me, not really difficult, but just a little bit more time consuming because, as you know, when you're, like say, I don't know if you use a cushion contour sander for the edge of the limbs and whatnot when you're taking it, kind of fine sanding and doing the final tiller and in alignment and the poundage and all that. But just because of that radical curvature of the limb, just that radical design, it's a little more just the contours, it's just a little tougher to sand. I
Hmm.
would think the easiest bow in the world to build would be basically like the straight limbed,
Longbow.
typical, yeah, D style type bows when they're unstrung just straight. But and again, not that difficult. Now I've found with my super curve, when I'm tillering and lining and building, if I string it up and I cut my string grooves a little deeper, I can literally go over to the big edge sander and stuff, and that's how I get things perfectly
Hmm.
aligned in the limbs, from the fade outs to the tips in a perfect straight line, no wobbles, no anything, and I'll actually work them when they're strung,
Hmm.
and
Wow, nice.
yeah, and it kind of straightens out that radical design a little bit. I mean, it still has some curve, but not near as much when it's unstrung. I mean, these things are, they kind of look like a mild horn bow when they're
Yeah.
unstrung. So not difficult, but just a little more labor intensive because of that, and my price slightly reflects that as well.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how the more bows we build, the braver we become?
Oh
You know,
yeah,
working on
telling you, I
strong
do stuff
bows.
now that I
Yeah.
wouldn't have thought of doing
Yeah.
15 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when I'm reducing weight on a bow, it's strong.
Oh yeah.
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 Okay. Let's check it out. Okay. I'm almost there. Bzz,
As
bzz,
long as
yeah.
you're careful around the string grooves,
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing. You just don't want to be smacking that string with the sanders or whatever. But yeah,
Oh no.
and you can see without stringing and unstringing a lot of time. Now when I, I'll unstring at some point and run it all the way through, so I go right out past the tip of everything, and you get a real smooth transition and all that. There's no dipping or bobs and weaves, and when you look down the edge of the limb, it's perfectly straight from tip to tail kind of thing. But yeah, no, it's yeah, there's all kinds of little, my son Noah, he's 11, and he came out in my shop the other day, and I had a real thin, I don't know, it was about 50 thousandths piece of, I was actually sanding something a little thicker. I was making a thumb rest for a bow, and that was about a quarter inch thick, and he was standing off to the side watching me. I was a 36 grit or 40 grit zirconia belt, and I had this little thumb rest in my right hand, and I was just hogging down on it, getting it nice and flat
Woo.
or whatever, laminate to the bow. And he looks at me, and I turn off the equipment. He goes, Dad, how do you and he looked at my fingertips. He goes, what do your fingertips look like? And they were fine, and he goes, how do you do that? I go, well, that's nothing. I grabbed a little piece of 050 fiberglass, and I took it, and I said, or actually, no, it was a piece of action bamboo, but it was about 50 thousandths thick. And I held that and I turned the sander on, and I dropped it down on there, and I did that and everything, and I pulled it off. And he couldn't believe it. I said, but son, I've been doing this a long time. You get that finesse
Yep.
feel for these different little projects you got going on. And I guess there's a little risk involved, but again, gosh, you just know when
Yeah.
there's a level of confidence. It's like when people send me bows to stipple and engrave and all that stuff, high end bows and risers and whatnot. And people are like, man, I'd be so nervous. I'm like, man, I look at, even the high end stuff, it doesn't matter to me. I just look at it, and this is what this person wants. So I just lay into it.
Yep.
Like I don't know reservations or whatever. But again, I guess I started in 95, so I've been building for 30 years. So there's a level of confidence with
Yeah.
that length of time of
Yeah.
just being around it and the equipment and knowing what you're doing. It
Yeah.
just,
I'm not afraid of anything
right. Yeah.
anymore. I've been doing this since, God, since high school.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
You got a few years on me then for bowyer
well,
experience.
you know what it is. It's because when I was a kid growing up, my mom was single, divorced, so money was tight. So I had paper route money, sold some things here and there, in high
Hmm.
school. Um, I hoarded my money and I spent it wisely. So when I wanted to find something, like I wanted a hunting bow there, I never forget this. I worked at an archery store in New Jersey, Butts and Bows Archery. The guy that owned it is Len Cardinal, who's in the Archery Hall of Fame. Um, and he was sponsored by Stemler Archery in New Jersey, and
Hmm.
they made a Len Cardinal signature model, and I always wanted one, but I could not afford a $275 takedown bow on paper route money.
Yeah.
So he had one in the back. It was beat to crap. I think it was his bow, and it had holes in it from sight and all this. It needed work bad, but it
Hmm.
still shot. And he goes, Rich, I'll sell it to you for 75 bucks. I said, done. So, yeah, it worked. They
Yeah.
took money out of my paycheck every other week. And then I came home with the bow. So I did, like you, I was a woodworker, as my father would call it, a shithouse woodworker,
Yeah.
like a shithouse barber. So, yeah, this is a PG-13 show. Um, so I stripped it down, sanded it, filled the holes with epoxy and sawdust, got everything so it was down to raw material.
Yeah.
And then my father, who was a helicopter mechanic, but he also built street cars and race cars, taught me how to paint. So with automotive clear coat, I sprayed this, wet sanded it, buffed it, wet sanded it, buffed it, got this thing. It looked like it just came out of the box. And
Wow.
that's how it started.
Okay.
Uh, and so,
So you were able to dabble into some of the different aspects that
mhm,
cumulatively allowed you to
yeah.
put the whole thing
It
together.
requires some imagination. Actually, it requires a lot of imagination. There's a lot of guys out there I talk to, and they're afraid to work on their own stuff. And I
Yeah.
want to teach people how to do their own stuff. I have a whole website dedicated to working on stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm like, guys, and I get bombarded all day long. I can literally work full time just answering messages on IMs. Hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you do this? How do you do that?
Yeah.
And I still work full time, but I'll take time out of
Now,
my
a
day
buddy
to,
of mine was saying, he says, "Oh, Rich Lopez." He says that guy does some major refinish work on, like he
yeah.
restoration.
Yeah, if you go to my Facebook page for that, it's called Drop Time Traditions / Rich Lopez or dash Rich Lopez. Check out some of my stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
So I mean, all kinds of people send you whatever, huh? And you'll
yeah,
complete. They want it refinished.
yeah. Like in the very back here, that line of bows, those are bows yet to go on the bench.
Nope.
The ones closest to me, those are my personal bows. But
Mm-hmm.
um, I since I moved to Florida, I can only work on two bows at a time because I downsized. You could fit my entire home and property inside my old house.
Wow.
Because in Maryland, you have a basement, and you have an attic. And then I
Mm.
had an outbuilding that was a 3-car garage with a workshop on the side. So I had workshop downstairs, I had a workshop in the outbuilding. I had a lot of workshop, so I could work on
Yeah.
5 at a time. Now I'm down to 2, so it takes me quite a bit of time to work on bows. Still working full time. But things get done, things get pushed out, and
Yeah.
it's not leaving this shop until I'm a perfectionist. I'm kind of OCD,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we
Well, I
all
would think
are.
for the customer that they would want somebody like that because they're going to get a really nice product when it's done.
And as I'm working on the bow, I'm sending the customer pictures of progress, sort of like
Oh,
proof of life,
sure.
which is like if I could, I'm not stealing your bow. I'm working on it.
Right.
Funny story, since because you finished. I worked on two. I'm still working on them. Two bare handle takedown handles from the '80s, and I don't know what was going on with bear back then, but they used black phenolic on the takedowns on the backs and the bellies,
Mm-hmm.
black and white, and they dyed them, and then they sprayed them with first generation urethane. Dude, this stuff was so thick. Stripper won't even make it come
Wow.
off. So I had to get it to bubble in one area and then took a razor blade, curved it so it's shaped like the
Yeah.
letter U, and then dug into it and chipped off eighth inch at a time.
The urethane.
Yeah, to get it off. Now I'm down to raw material. I'm like, thank you, Jesus. Now I
Yeah.
can spray. I can sand and spray.
So the phenolic itself too, you said they dyed that.
Yeah, they dyed that with like a Q-tip or whatever with Black India ink.
So if you start sanding on that, do you just go right through the dye?
Yo,
Or
I'm right. I am actually down through the dye, so you can see all the layers of the phenolic.
yeah,
So I got
yeah.
to re-dye all that,
Oh wow,
and
that's
then
a
the latches. The latches have pitting and rust from years, so
mm,
it's kind of a double process. So I do the
yeah.
riser, get it beautiful, get it wet sanded, buff it, all that. Then I back tape everything and reverse mask everything to expose the latches. Then I wire wheel the latches and all that, and then I have
Oh,
to spray them.
do
I
those
use,
latches come off, or is that something that's just they basic the way they manufacture it
I think
permanently
they
attached?
blued it. I think it was blued, or it wasn't painted. It's like some kind
But
of a
you can't
powder.
take those off the riser, like they
No,
stay on
no,
while you're.
they had fingers, if you will, like fins, like if you look
Oh,
at
to latch them into the.
yeah, if you look at it like a surfboard, the fins underneath, there was three of them, and
Mm-hmm.
they CNC'd these grooves, and then they would epoxy these latches into these grooves,
So
and
they
they
were designed to not ever come off,
ever
right?
come
You
out,
gotta
never.
when you restore or refinish, you have to do those on the bow.
Yeah. And
Okay.
depending on how dialed in the CNC machine was, I'm getting a lot of these lately, where the handles have these hairline cracks at the apex of the latch where it goes into the riser.
Hmm.
And as wood, any wood, expansion and contraction
Mm-hmm.
through atmospheric pressure and all these things that are around us, they develop these hairline cracks in the wood. So then I have to backfill these cracks with, like super glue or Loctite 420.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually did it this weekend and it actually sucked it down into the crack. That's how deep it was. So I had to
Oh,
backfill it like three times and then sand it. So now the crack is secure. It's,
right.
you know,
Stabilized and good to go.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot of work. It's labor intensive, but again, I'm not running around at titty bars. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, really. Yeah.
I'm hanging out in my shop, got the
It's a great
TV.
hobby. Yeah, you're enjoying it. That's I know the feeling.
Yeah. And I dare not put YouTube on because then I'll never get anything done.
Right.
So it's always like, dark
Oh,
winds
that's
in the
not where you
background.
learn to build bows, Rich. Come on.
No, 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 no. Actually, I learned to build bows by reading books. I read Tom
Yeah.
Jennings. He put out an article in 1959 on how to build the Smith McRecurve. Um, oh God, I got a whole library on how to build bows. I got actually Jay Massey taught me how to build self bows. Besides
Mm-hmm.
his books, we had physical conversations on a telephone. I used to run up $300 phone bills on my mother,
Oh
calling
man.
him as a teenager. Hey man, what's up? Ah,
Yeah.
talking about bows and building and making broadheads out of strap steel. And, you know, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
a blessed man to know you and know everybody in my life and archery. We really are blessed to have traditional archery
Oh
and the
man.
community in our lives.
It is. It's a saving grace for a lot of people. I say that in a sense that I mean it's just like you said earlier. You could. There's so many other things that you could be doing that would be
Bad.
unproductive or
Mhm.
ungodly or whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it. And it's and again, it's super labor intensive. A lot of people don't understand that the hours that it involves and
Yeah.
there's been so many nights in the past where you know we'd we'd be in the middle of a movie or something and they'd pause to people would take a bathroom break and my break was run out to the shop and spray a coat
Right.
and then come back
Right.
in,
Yep.
that kind of thing, and it's just there's always something going on and
Yeah. My wife and I watch a lot of streaming stuff. Just our thing to do after dinner. And so
yeah.
I'll be right back. So I'll go out to the shop. I have a spray booth in my backyard that I built. It's basically a big shed, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've got a fan in there that sucks the stuff out. But then I realized I really don't like my backyard grass. So I just blow it out on the grass so it kills the grass.
There you go. To go for the
Yeah.
desert escape, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's full of lizards. I live in Florida, so I have lizards
Yeah.
everywhere. Sometimes I'll go in a shop and I'll find a lizard stuck to the bow after I
Oh man.
sprayed it. Yeah, so
Ah,
it's like son of a bitch. So I got to pull the lizard off, throw him outside because he died in the process because the
yeah.
thing was gassing off and he died from the fumes. And then I got to sand it and redo it again. So
You
that's what I
talking
did.
about those little enols?
Yes. I
Yeah.
got they're well right now we don't have them because it's freezing here. I actually have the heat on. It was
Yeah.
28 degrees this morning. So I had to put blankets on my pool pump and
Yeah.
crank up the pool heater so the water wouldn't freeze. It's been a bit of a
I
stretch the
guess those
last
little
couple of
guys
days.
probably go underground or somewhere trying to get heat.
What they'll do is I find them in like if you look at my front door, I have a screen door that opens up in the front. There's
Yeah.
a frame around it, and in between the actual house and the frame, there's gaps, openings. So they'll crawl up in there and get themselves embedded in there. They
Okay.
will. I have a banana tree in front of my house, and they burrow into the roots of it.
Oh yeah.
So like today, it got up to 60. So I saw one or two. Tomorrow's
Yeah.
supposed to get up to 70. I'll see probably 50.
Yeah.
But yeah, I talk to them. They inflate their throat sacs and turn red. That's the males, and they threaten me all the time. They're like
Yeah. I was.
challenging me to step on them, but I love them.
Yeah, they're neat. We've got a little house down in Inglis.
Okay, yeah. Well, we're gonna get there with Mark and
Oh
Allison.
yeah.
Yeah. So, any new models in the future on your?
Yeah, I'm actually I got a lot going on right now, but I've been kicking around doing a shorter risered longbow
Mhm.
for guys that are looking, maybe just to be in a ground blind a lot or possibly tree stand or whatever off the knee type shooting. But instead of a 16-inch riser that I have now, I'm thinking about going 14-inch
Okay.
and kind of revamping. Well, not doing anything with the existing form, but just building a model because right now I've got anywhere from 54 to 64 inches.
Hmm.
That's off of one form. But I think I'd like to do something where I've got like 52 to 56 inch. So a 52, a 54, and a 56, but with a shorter riser. So
Okay.
just a little bit, a little more accommodation for draw length, but a little bit more, uh, just maneuverable and whatnot for the ground blind and tighter
Mhm.
spaces. I
Sweet.
think that might be well received. Again, I'd say 90% of my customers are predominantly hunters.
Mhm.
I do build some bows here and there for target archers, but
Yeah.
64 is the longest I build. So I was thinking about trying to do that and just see what I come up with for for just a shorter, more maneuverable longbow, and
Okay.
possibly in the future the same thing with a super curve.
Okay. I
Because
can
right
see
now
that. I can
I
see
do a
that.
56, a 58, and a 60. The 56 and 58 are built off of one form. The 60 is built off of a whole nother. The thing with the super curves is you can only build like two off of one because as soon as you start shortening that, you start cutting off your levers,
Hmm.
and so you need to take it out like the middle of the limb so you can continue keeping your levers the same length for the shorter bows.
Yeah.
So it requires a whole new bow form at that point.
Oh, yeah. I believe that for sure. So I want to talk about stippling. Let's dive into stippling because I consider you the best on the planet because I've been playing with stippling and it's not easy. It requires a lot of patience
It's
and
yeah, it's and that it's funny how that came about years ago. My dad had picked up this engraving, stippling engraving unit, and actually got a couple of them. And he started playing with that because he was working on banjos and whatnot, and wanted some of the diamond type bits to do some of the scroll work around the drum or whatever you call that of the banjo.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I was just kind of over there checking some of that stuff out, and I got to thinking, and I played around with it on some different chunks of wood and stuff. I go, hey, this would make some really nice traction on a bow if it was done right. I it's interesting. I see people out there stipple, and I get a little frustrated. I just I don't browse much on the internet at all, to be honest with you. I'll post pictures of my stuff on the Facebook page because I use that as my gallery, and then I'm gone. I'm off there. I don't look at any other people's stuff or anything. I'm kind of out, I'm back to building bows. But when it comes to stippling, I get a little frustrated. I see what people are doing. I'm like, man, how do they not get it? you know?
Yeah, and I found out I've been playing with it using different size bits. What I do
Mm.
first, so a couple of months ago, I put a thing out on my Facebook archery buddies. If you have any exploded bows, please, and you want to get rid of them, I'll pay you for them. Cut the limbs off and send me the handles. So
Oh,
I have guinea pigs in the garage in my shop that,
that you can just lay into and not feel bad
yeah.
about it if it gets messed
And
up.
the first couple look like shit. And now they're starting to come into their own, but still not up to my snuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get to your level, and it's going to take, it's artwork, is what it is. Um, it's like painting a canvas. You want to, when you gesso a canvas, which is the white
Yeah,
sealer,
the prep. Yep.
yeah, you want to make sure you use a quality brush or you're going to get clumps.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at. I'm at the clump stage.
Well, all I can say, well, and there's different ways of stippling. When I very first started stippling, I was doing kind of a randomized pattern, and
Right.
so just and when you're doing that, there's really no rules. I mean, it's just as long as you don't leave like flat plateaus or whatever in between
Mhm.
your dimples, you're fine. But as time went on, I got to a more structured, organized pattern, and boy, I've really just come to like that design, that
I do
pattern.
too.
It's
Yeah.
very uniform.
Yeah.
And when done correctly, when you look at the individual stipples, you almost get like a honeycomb type pattern
Hmm.
that happens as you stagger and do these, nest them in the way that they need to be nested. But it's gosh, I've been doing, I don't know how long, 15, 20, maybe 20 years. I don't even know how long it's been since I've been stippling, but
So,
probably.
yeah, the side, I've looked at the photos and I'm like, my God. So, and I try to emulate you. Okay. So you're kind of like my idol. And
Uh,
so, yeah, I'm going large, large, large. Then I go to small, 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 large, 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 small, small, small. But I draw it out first with a pencil, the area
oh,
that I
like the
want to stick.
borders?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just my brain thinks that way. I don't know if I'm doing that right, but it works for me.
Well, no,
Uh,
there's nothing wrong with that. That's a guiding system. I don't. The only time I draw on a bow, I'll take a mechanical pencil because the lead is super fine,
mhm.
and that's if somebody asks me to do an engraving, like a deer antler or an arrowhead or something, and I'll just kind of, And when it comes to deer antlers too, I've done so many of them. I don't really look at anything. I just imagine what there's. Somebody says, hey, I really like 10 pointers and they want a drop shed, so I'll do a nice 5. Or hey, I'm really big on giant 8 point, type.
Right, right, right.
And I'll look at some antlers and different things, sometimes like an elk antler or something, just to. You don't have a lot of room on my risers because they're pretty petite. They're finer,
Yeah.
kind of refined type risers. There's not a lot of area to engrave, but I'll draw those out. But when it comes to stippling, I just I don't draw any of that. I just go. I
You just
get
go.
the bit I want and I just go at it. Yeah, and
Yeah.
and it's funny because I'll surprise myself sometimes, and I don't even know. I think it's just the subconscious will pick up certain curves and riffles and stuff in these risers. Like this week, I probably have 3 or 4 risers coming in that guys are sending me different stuff to do on the side when I'm not working on the bows, or I'll fit in between. One's in the paint booth or one's in the hot box or whatever. And so I'll go grab a stipple job. But I just kind of look at it, and then I don't even conscientiously know what I'm doing. I grab the riser and I start to stipple. When it's all done, I realize like, oh, the curvature that I did here matches the sweep down below the heel of the bow,
Okay.
or this flare that I've done here matches something going on in the sight window. And somehow subconsciously my eye is picking up on these lines and these curves of the bow, and I just somehow incorporate them into the stipple job somehow. And I don't know. I mean, I know that sounds kind of rogue and a little bit feral, but that's just kind of how I do things
Well, we
sometimes.
we are we are feral by what we do. But I have a question because I'm a finisher, as you know.
Yeah.
Um, so being that I guess you 99, probably 100% of your bows are satin finish.
Yeah.
Okay. So stippling, I would imagine first you would seal the entire riser first before you stipple.
I actually do it before I put any finish on the bow.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, doesn't it get
it's the
thick?
final. Does it get wet? I'm sorry.
Does it get thick? Or you just
No,
hit
I
it a
just you
couple
just
coats?
yep, yep. Well, I'll do see for years I've sprayed Thunderbird epoxy and I've got this new finish that I've been trying and it's been working out really well. It's some really durable stuff. I've played around with different finishes over the years, but it just kind of depends on there's certain areas like like depending on how your bow's hanging, like it'd be easy to get a little bit too much finish on the bottom bow tip
Right.
of a one piece bow
Right.
because the finish as you're spraying it tends to settle with gravity and whatnot. And so the bottom limb or the bottom bow tip. So over the years, you kind of figure out through trial and error, like, okay, this is how much time I need to spend making a pass on this limb versus this limb to get a real even coat.
Mhm.
And so when you go over that stippled area, you're just gauging it and you're watching all that.
Back off a
And
little. Yeah.
yeah, there's
Distance
just stuff.
wise.
But when I spray the bow, the stippling is the final thing that I do before it goes into the paint booth.
Okay.
Um, and well, almost final. I once the stippling is done, I wire brush it. I sand it a little bit on the area where you're resisting the poundage, so it's not too agitative on the hand.
Right.
And then what I do is I dust the bow off completely and get that all good, and then I write on it, and
Okay.
then it goes in the paint booth.
Okay.
But it's completely stippled before any finish hits it.
Excellent. So what is this new finish? What are you using?
It's an Italian finish called Renner, and it's
Never
a
heard of it. I'll have to check
yeah,
into it.
it's a polyurethane, but you add a hardener to it.
Right.
Now, if you're excuse me, if you spray over anything that's you know uh, oily, cocoa
Mm.
butter, that kind of stuff, Cody, there's
You're freezing up.
yeah, there's a couple light coats on.
You're completely frozen, brother. So how's your signal on the phone? Wow.
But the
This is a first.
riser there's a little
Oh,
seems
wow.
like I'm okay.
You're frozen on my end, but
Is that
there you go.
just
You're starting to move around a little bit. Yep.
we're just talking about
Yee.
the audio or I mean the visual.
Yeah, the visual is kind of like it's frozen, but I can hear you.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's see. Oh, there we are. So what
I
I'm
get this every
spraying
once in
is
a while.
this PU or is that just for us?
It's just us. I mean, but on your end, it's frozen visually, but now I
Can you
can
hear
see
me?
you. Now I can see you and I can hear you.
It must be locked up on your end, huh? Oh,
No,
gosh.
locked
On
up
that,
on
Rich.
it.
I've been spraying it for a while, and it's been great.
Okay, cool. I use Crystal, and with Crystal,
I've
again,
heard of that before. I was interested in that.
yeah, it's made by ML Campbell. I get it locally. It's a two part. I mean, I used Fuller Plast for like 30 years, and I loved it. A lot of guys didn't understand it.
Yeah.
It has to be mixed perfectly for it to respond and be perfect. Um, if you don't
Hmm.
measure, if people are just eyeballing stuff, that's not going to work. You got to measure everything. And I still to this day measure everything.
If I remember correctly, Fuller Plast was 16 to 1.
Yep, exactly. Uh, this crystal I'm using is 10 to 1.
Oh, okay.
Uh, and it works great. I don't even use a thinner anymore. I used to use like 1 or 2 ounces of lacquer thinner in my Fuller Plast. This stuff I spray straight out of the gun, and it just lays out beautifully. I was getting
No.
these white spots and stuff, so I called him. I talked to an engineer there, and he says, "Dude, do not use a thinner. Just spray it flat out. Just open up your gun a little more. You're gonna have a little overspray, waste,
Hmm.
but and he was absolutely right. It
So
worked out fine.
were they saying that the thinner was causing the little white spots that like all of a sudden form out of nowhere?
Yeah, it would gas out too quickly
See,
and
I'm
trapping the air bubbles.
yeah, like a little like the size of a little 16th inch dot, kind of
Yeah,
little
not
white
even like
spotted.
salt, like salt. Like if you put salt on
Yeah.
something, that's
Okay.
what it would look. I was like, "What the hell is
Super.
this?" Yeah, I'm wet sanding, and I'm like, I can't be working twice. I don't like doing stuff
Right.
twice.
So that's from the thinner
Hmm.
then.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I used a fast acting lacquer thinner, and it was gassing off too fast. So I tried medium thinner. It gassed off less, but still I got white spots. So I was like, oh, I got to figure this out.
Mm,
So I do not spray bows in the summer here in Florida at all because the humidity is
really?
brutal. I don't have humidity control in my spray booth. So
Oh, okay.
when people send me bows, I said, well, it's summertime. I'm not spraying your bow till October. So, during the
So have
summer,
you do they have you ever thought about getting a dehumidifier to really pull that or
it here, well, you've been here. It's brutal. It's like it's so humid out. You might as well have
yeah,
a thunderstorm in your spray booth. Um, so what I do is
I
I
know
save
it,
the
it is
summer
it is
months.
horrible.
I save the summer months for actually, getting old finishes off, repairs, stuff like that that I can get away with, time wise. So when I lived up north in Baltimore,
Yeah.
I didn't work in the winter because it was so cold. I couldn't get anything. I had finally I got heat in my spray booth, so I was able to work 24/7. Here, this is
Yeah.
this is very difficult when you're dealing with
See,
moisture.
our humidity in Montana is super low.
Yeah, of course, it's dry. It's beautiful.
Our humidity in Montana is super low compared to,
Yeah.
it's probably 30, 40%.
Okay, so you froze up again.
Yeah,
It's dead, dude. I got you frozen solid.
yeah, that's why a good finish.
Jim, see if you could just get out of the application and then jump back into it. The invite, the Zoom invite, maybe that's the problem. Hey, Jim, you might want to just re-click the link I sent you for the Zoom meeting. I'm going to send you a text. Of course, I don't have your phone number. Shit. Well, guys, I don't know what's going on here. I'm going to send them an IM, see what happens. Shit. Guys, I'm sorry. This is life. Modern technology sucks. Oh, there you go. Oh, there you go. That's better.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't know
think we're
what
good,
happened.
huh?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. So, can you hear me? Maybe turn the phone back to where it was vertically. Still.
Change anything?
Oh, okay. No,
Here's
not. Yep. Go back to vertical.
that pretty good? Go back to
Yeah.
vertical?
Yeah. Go back to vertical. That seemed to be working better. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Leave it
We can
like
do that.
that. Yeah. So,
Yep.
folks, I
No problem.
apologize. Modern technology sucks. Uh, there we go. There we go. Just leave it just like that.
Perfect.
So we were talking about finishes, and I think we were talking about humidity and whatnot, and we're going to leave it at that. Um, let's move on because I still got a lot of questions here. So,
Okay.
for an aspiring young bowyer, what piece of advice would you give him on getting started? What should they
Um,
load? What should they first buy?
oh, um, well, if they're, I mean, see that I got into it when I got involved. I was getting draw knives and files and stuff. In fact, I bought my first little bowyer's kit from a gentleman named David Tuller at a longbow safari out in Brownsville, Oregon, I believe.
David Tuller?
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
you know, you don't know him?
No, I'm just kidding.
Pretty cool guy. Ended up becoming a MD or something. Like he's a pretty knowledgeable guy, neat guy. Anyways, but I, I didn't realize that I wanted to go into the laminated bows until after building self bows and realizing, what all that entailed. But then I wanted to do something that was a little more robust, like, hey, you can take a 60-inch glass bow and put that in somebody's hands and just about anybody can pull it and not destroy it. But you do that with a self bow that, it's built for this specific person, and some dude gets a longer draw and pulls it back and holds it along and it breaks. I always thought, well, if I could get into the laminated stuff, I could build something that was much more guaranteeable for the customer. And so at that point, gosh, I think the first thing my dad and I went to Sears in Missoula and bought a bandsaw.
Mhm.
That was quite handy for ripping stuff down and milling things, and a combination belt disc sander. But of course, if you're building laminated bows now, you need you're going to need a dimensional sander so you can bring your laminations down to the exact sizes. There's so many tools, and it doesn't take a ton of money to get them all, but it can add up pretty quick and especially if you get anything that's decent quality. But you know, I think I I feel like I've learned a lot about bows because I started like super primitive, learning how to follow a grain layer on the back of the bow and understanding why it's so important not to violate that tensile side where you can, if you have a grain pool where it can get a start on lifting
Right.
and heavily breaking.
Sort of like
So
Osage chasing a ring, chasing the ring.
right, and so I think that's a great way for anybody to get a good viable bow, something that they've got a lot of pride in, that they took, and of course starting with a good stave. I mean, you can get um, you could probably get discouraged very quickly if you're using crap wood that would even a professional or somebody that's done it a long time maybe wouldn't even be able to get a bow out of.
Hmm.
So like a good Osage stave, a good U stave, something hickory, whatever, something that they can get carving on and chase that ring, and then just take their time. But a draw knife, some scrapers, some files, some things like that, and build a few self bows, and
Yeah.
then see like, hey, is this for me? Is this something that do I want to delve in deeper? Do I want to learn how to laminate? Do I want to invest in this equipment to do this? Because there's plenty of people that get to that next phase and they do all that, and then they realize, like before when I was mentioning all those old traditional bow hunter ads and stuff in the magazine there, that those guys aren't around anymore. You don't hear of them or see them. It was like they ran 4 or 5 ads and maybe did it for a year or two and then they're gone. And you
Right.
got, I guess, to be a bow maker, I just feel like you really got to be passionate about it. If
Sure.
you don't have the passion, because it is so labor intensive, you're going to burn out.
Oh yeah. I mean, my hunting partner, my best friend and hunting partner, John, he's 76 as of a couple days ago. Uh, Since he retired, he's building a bow like every month
Uh-huh.
just for the hell of it. And I've got a couple here. And
Yeah.
when he's not doing that, he's building flintlocks. It's just he's got an insane shop. He's always working. When I first saw his shop when he first built it, it was like you could eat off the floors. Now it looks like my shop. There's crap
Yeah.
everywhere. Yeah, it looked like a bomb
Yeah.
went off.
When you're getting
Uh,
stuff done, it tends to happen.
yeah, I love it. Uh, so we've got into the stippling thing. I'm going to skip the stipple tech video because you could Google that. Um, and the aspiring young bowyer. I mean, when I started out, I think I bought a Delta bandsaw. Deltas are great equipment,
Hmm.
and it was like built in the '50s, but it blew up. And so now I don't have a bandsaw. Everything I do is hand cut. I use a Chinese cabinet saw for doing
Oh.
all my shaping, and I have to. A lot of guys send me bows to reshape the shelf,
Hmm.
especially bear takedowns. They want Fred Bear's handle. I'm like, well, yeah, that's all well and good, but don't be shooting heavy weight on these things
Yeah.
because I really take a lot of meat off. So besides woods, you use quite a bit of G10, I believe.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's probably some of the strongest, most stable stuff you can put in a bow handle, honestly.
Yeah.
And the structural integrity of it is just second to none. I mean, they rate it 3 times stronger than phenolic and micarta.
Oh, beautiful.
That being said, I can still stipple it, I can engrave it, I can do all the things. It's required in the takedown,
Hmm.
but it's a great material. There's you can get colors too. You know, if you get the right source, you can find different colors and stuff. But yeah, and again, for myself, that's what I put in my bow handles, just because my bows are, again, not a bulky. They're kind of a finesse riser, so I like all the weight that I can get in the grip.
Yeah.
Um, for guys that are like, hey, I really want a lightweight bow, then I'll tell them, well, we've got the Dymalux, which is a little lighter. We've got natural woods and stuff, but by far the G10 is going to give you the most weight.
Yeah. I mean, you have such a color spectrum on some of your bows. I'm like, I can't download enough photos. I'm like, my God. Uh, they're beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I got to get one. So,
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. The neat thing about, and that's kind of what one of the fun things about building these bows is, a lot of it is just the customer's ideas,
mhm.
and glued up off the same form, but just a plethora of different colors and accent colors and woods and stuff to choose from, so they
Yeah.
can look radically different from one
I mean,
another.
I looked at this one the other day. It was green and yellow, and I was like, and blue. I was
Yeah,
like,
the
oh
John Deere.
my, yeah, that thing was wild. So
Yeah,
let's go back to Florida. Mark Harrison and Allison, very talented people. That Omnivores Homestead, they got a
yeah.
great thing going on there. I love their products. How did you get to know them?
Well, Mark reached out to me years and years ago. I think he reached out to me one time, and he was kind of, hey man, we're doing some filming down here, and I'd love to shoot one of your bows. Would you consider that or whatever? Maybe sending one down. And I think he even offered to pay for it and everything. And at the time, I was like, yeah, I'll kick it around or whatever. I don't know what was going on in my life at that point, but I was kind of busy. And he reached out to me again a little later on, and I said, yeah, let's do it. And so I ended up sending him a bow, and he just fell in love with it. He shot it all the time. He shot it
Mhm.
well. He was just, very upbeat person. I mean, he's just,
Oh yeah, he's
fun to
full of
talk to
energy.
and whatnot.
Full of energy, man.
Yeah. And so I sent him a one-piece bow, and then later on, he sold that one, and he sent me the money to make him a takedown or whatever, and we ended up
Hmm.
building him a little triple carbon, I believe it was. But and for years he would always say, man, you really ought to come out and visit. You can come hunt hogs, and I can show you around the hammock, some of the areas where he hunts and different things. I'd take you bow fishing and all that. And finally, I just pulled the trigger on it, and I did that. And went down there and met he and his wife. They picked me up at the airport, and their daughter Lillian, and he hosted. I mean, I stayed at his house for like 2 weeks and hunted and did bow fishing and shot a couple gators and had such a great time. I started hunting around for a little place down there. I'm like, man, if I could do a little cash out refinance on my house, I could buy a little place down here in Florida. And my wife, she was originally, like from the South, and she always thought that would be neat if we had a little place to go. So I found a place about 5 minutes from Mark's, and made an offer. And being self-employed, I had to talk to about 3 different lenders,
Yeah.
before they look at self-employed people. If you have any deductions at all, they're like, well, you don't make anything. I'm like, yeah, but it pays for everything. And they don't, so I finally got the right
Yeah.
lender that said, oh yeah, gosh, we can do this for you. And we ended up getting that little place down there, just a little further inland than Mark. I know when they were having some of the hurricanes and stuff before he built his new home, his other house was sitting pretty low. And so when it would flood, they'd head over to our house and stay a few days and then boat back into their house and see what the damage
Hmm.
was.
Yeah. They built a
But
beautiful home now. It's like
yeah,
20 feet. It's like 20 feet off the ground.
he was like a stonemason by trade. So
Yeah.
I think he always wanted to do it. But that last, during Helene, I mean, they had 5 feet of water, and I mean, it took everything.
Yep.
So they ended up knocking that over, and it was just kind of I guess, the final push he needed to do what he needed to do. And so I'm real glad that they did that, because now, and they got a neat little place, the property and everything. They got lots of wildlife around. It's
Yep.
a great place. So yeah, they're safe and sound now. But yeah, it's I really like it, and that area is pretty rural. I mean,
Oh yeah. Big
you know,
time.
just
For,
north of Crystal River there.
for what they do, their game rich environment yields them snake skins and all the things they need to do their thing.
Yeah,
And I shoot
yeah,
nothing
yeah. They have
but
a
their
lot of stuff
taps.
down.
I shoot their stuff exclusively. Um, I think
Mm-hmm.
I think they're wonderful
Mark's a
people.
craftsman. He's kind of one of those people. And Allison, she's a hard worker. She's always doing stuff. She's got things going on time. And Mark, he's kind of one of those guys. If he decides he wants to do something, he just does it, and he
Yeah.
does pretty good.
Yeah, he's making some nice
He's
self
just
bows.
yeah. He's just super logical. He knows. He studies things. He pays attention. He's kind of like a jack of all trades.
Yeah, that's a
And
good that's
yeah,
a
he
talent.
does a nice job.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to skip question 13. And we already talked about the Harrisons. So let's talk about hunting. So how was your 25 season? What'd you kill?
2025 was pretty good. Well, 25 started off uh, be, actually being the tail end of 24, because our season ends on January 15th here in Montana,
Mhm.
predominantly the archery season. And January 5th, I had a cow elk come by. It was a poke. She was about 28 yards, but I stopped her. I just kind of threw out a little, and she stopped, and I drew back. I was shooting my super curve, a little 49-pound super curve. I only have a 25-inch draw length. 560 grain arrow, the big game broadhead, 1.75 inch cut. And I heart shot her at 28 yards. She went about 120 yards and died right on the riverbed next to the Bitterroot River. And that was pretty neat. So hey, there's
Easy.
food for 2025. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
easy.
we were able to get right down to her with the four-wheeler and everything, and get her out. Um, and then fast forward, September gets kicked off, and I'd only sat the third time I sat was after a real violent rainstorm that we had here, high winds and all that, and I sat. It was September 14th, and I went down in River Bottom, and I had a nice bull come by at about 32 yards, which is, I mean, it's just so far out of the scope of where I am comfortable, but I just felt super confident. He came by. I got the whole thing on video, but he came by and he stopped, and there was a pine bough over the top of him between he and I. And man, if I shoot now, it's going to deflect. And he stepped out. I got the video camera. He stepped out and started walking. I drew back and just double lunged him at 32 yards. And I heard him crash. He went about 130 yards and piled up. And so there's more elk meat for us right there. And I only sat one other time. I sat a total of 4 times in 2025, and I guess in the fall, and I could have killed a deer every single time, but I knew there was elk in the area. The first time I sat, my son Noah came with me. We had a couple deer walk by. I just played it cool. We just watched them. The second time I sat, I had like a spike and some does come by. The third time I sat, I had a few does and a little 2x3 come by, and I'd say 30-40 minutes later, I had that herd of elk come through in that bull, and I shot him. And then I sat one more time. I went because it was my birthday. It was November 22nd, the middle of the rut here in Montana. our rut kicks off around the 15th of November. From all the years that I've calculated, I've killed bucks on the 17th, 18th, 19th, and 21st of November. So that's the time to be out there when they're just going crazy. And I had a little 8-point come by at 6 yards, and I kind of drew back on him and counted coup and let down. He was just a little guy. I let him grow up. But other than that, I didn't sit. But I mean, 4 out of 4 sits, I could have shot deer.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, right. I was where I needed to be and everything. It was great. But I fired 1 arrow and I got 1 elk. So that was my 2025 season.
Well, you got a nice freezer full of meat though.
Absolutely. And that bull, I thought he was going to be ruddy and bad tasting. He's excellent. I mean, it's just completely contingent on the individual animal, really, is what I've noticed over
I've killed some big bucks. I've got some monsters around me that I've shot, and I shot during the rut because that's my thing. And let me show you real quick.
Oh yeah.
And then we'll take it over here.
Yeah, really. Wow.
So this one here, this guy here with the arrow in his antlers, this guy tasted like crap, pure crap. I was like, oh my God. I'm cleaning him and he stunk.
Yeah.
My wife is like, what's wrong with that deer? I said, it's the rut. It's just his thing. He was 9 years old.
Yeah.
So this guy just stunk to high hell. And I was like, oh, no. So that one became jerky. And even the jerky tasted like crap. So I gave it to all the people I didn't like. I was like, yeah, we can't eat him. But at any rate, so your bow hunting rig, what is your normal bow hunting rig when you go out? Is it the super curve or the longbow?
Yeah. Yeah, the super curve. Ever since I started building the super curves, I've just been hooked.
Okay.
I mean, I've been a longbow guy forever, but I just can't put my super curve down. I just love shooting it. And I guess also it's the newest bow in my lineup, so I like to give it due diligence. I like to shoot it for years and years, and that's actually in 2021 when I went down the first time and visited Mark and Allison. Mm-hmm. That's the bow I took, and I've just been trying to beat it up and destroy it and everything since then, and it's just been great. It's been dry fired several times. It's the bottom limb has slammed the the rails on the boat down in Florida when we were bow fishing.
Yeah.
I fell off of the spillway in Florida. I was kind of lowering myself down. I had my recurve in one hand, and it was a chain link fence, and I slipped off that, and there was big boulders about 6-7 feet down below, and I landed on them. I thought I was going to break my bow. I bloodied my legs all up. We got pictures of that. Mark was like, what the heck did you do? The bow's got some gouges in the edge of the limb and everything, but it's fine. I've been hunting with it ever since. I've killed 2 elk and a nice buck and several does with it since then. And I'm happy.
Well, next time you're down in Florida, give me a holler. We can all hook up.
Yeah, really. How far are you from
I'm about 2 hours.
Area?
I'm about 2 hours from Mark.
Okay.
That's nothing because I'm in Central Florida. I'm by Daytona Beach. So technically, I would just drive diagonally northwest to get to Mark's area.
Northwest, and you'd be there.
Yep. Not a big deal because there's plenty of highways. Get me there. It's not a big deal. It's a nice drive. Now that I've lived here for going on 5 years, I know where everything is. I know how to get around. Stranger in a strange land. When you first get here, you're like, oh, man, deer in the headlight look.
Oh,
yeah, so it's all good now. So your day-to-day shop, do you have particular days that you dedicate to certain operations? Like Monday?
Not really. I've got bows in different phases all the time. Okay. So when I get on a project, I just go with it until it's done. And if it's in between stages where it needs a little, like in a paint booth or something, you're waiting a half an hour between coats, I'm working on something else. So I've got the flow going all the time. So yeah, I'm not really structured like that. I just take the projects whenever I start them. And sometimes it's a weekend. I'll be working on a weekend and get it.
I love working weekends. That's my favorite time because my wife works part-time at Costco. So when she's at work, I'm in the shop. I got no interruptions. I got the cranking music going. I got whatever.
Hmm.
Uh,
No, it's
and this
great.
time of year, I love it because I got the garage door open. I got a hoodie on. I'm working. The weather's cool. It's not humid. People walk by and
Uh,
they walk by. Hey man, what's up? What are you doing? And they'll come into my drive in my garage, and I'll show them the shop and what I'm doing. And they say, "Wow, I didn't know this stuff existed." Yeah, I'm that guy.
yeah. Yeah,
So
it's a lot of people, if you meet people out and about and you tell them what you do, they're like, "Oh, wow, I didn't know people still do that."
I was out for a couple of beers on Sunday, just for the hell of it, at this local pizzeria. And this dude sat down next to me, ZZ Top beard, the whole 9 yards. Turns out he's into fishing, fly fishing. And we started talking.
Hmm.
He goes, "What are you into?" And I told him. He's like, "What is that?" So I started showing him pictures. And he goes, and then I
Yeah.
told him about the podcast. Now he just subscribed. So,
Oh, nice.
he's going to show me how to fly fish, and I'm going to teach him how to do bows.
Hey, a great trade-off.
Yeah, excellent. And we
Now,
both like pizza.
now you'll have zero time if you pick up fly fishing.
Yeah, I know, right? But I'm interested in anything and everything that has to do with the outdoors.
That's
So,
great. Yeah.
so have you ever hunted abroad, like Africa, outside of the U.S. or any of that?
No, I haven't. You know, with being married and there's four kiddos and everything. The three are older now. They're 19, 21, almost, and 23. But we've got an 11-year-old. But it's just there was never, um, the extra funds or the
Sure.
time
Mhm.
or anything for me to do any of that. And I
Uh,
actually had when we got married, I canceled an African trip and kind of used that money to pay for like wedding costs. And then when a buddy of mine went a couple years ago to New Zealand, and I was supposed to be on that trip with him, and I just couldn't wing it. It's just too much responsibility, I
yeah.
guess.
Yeah, I myself have not been to the dark continent. Um, Even in my older age, it's just we just don't have the funds. And if I'm going to spend money, I'm going to invest in property. That's what I want to do
Hmm.
because I want to take my grandson. I want my son to hunt with me. I want my daughter to hunt with me. I'm looking
Yeah.
at. Yeah, I'm a big whitetail guy. That's my thing. So I'm Kentucky, Tennessee. Man, they got some great bucks in those states.
Oh, so you're saying you'd rather invest in property or something like that
Hmm.
where you could
Yeah,
go.
where I could
Okay.
take the family hunting. My son, my daughter,
That's
my
smart.
grandson. I
That's smart. There's some places,
I just love spending time with them. I mean, it's just I can't get enough
yeah.
of it.
There's
To
there's a
me,
lot of neat hunts, I think. Like I'd love to maybe go to Canada and kill a big moose and
mhm.
maybe do a little caribou hunting. There's a lot of things that are a lot closer that I've
Yeah.
never. I'd love to shoot a brown bear someday with my super curve.
Oh, that would be awesome. That'd
There's
be a
a lot
hell of
of
a
things I'd
trophy.
like to do. Yeah, and I just I know at some point I'll be able to do it. I don't know. It's just going to take a
Yeah.
I don't know, just getting ahead a little bit. I
Yeah.
can't. I don't. I, I've always. I don't want to be a slave to debt. I don't like credit
No,
card
no,
debt.
no,
I
no.
don't like that
I used to
stuff.
be that way when I was younger. Now, as I'm getting older, I'm like risk management, psychology, financial risk management psychology. So it's like I'm going
Hmm.
to retire in August, and I know I'm going to be busy in the shop 24/7. So there's that. There's my pension. There's Social
Yeah.
Security. We'll be okay. However,
Yeah.
I kind of like
No, that's
I
just
don't
it.
like.
If I can swing it at some point, I'm going to do it.
Yeah,
Because I'm only 49, so I
yeah.
feel
You
pretty
got a lot of
good.
time.
Yeah, but in a sense, you don't either. It's like if you have that mentality where you think you got a lot of time, I
Mhm.
just see things going by, and I see like my son growing up, and I'm seeing time kind of go through, and I'm going, man, I've worked a lot. My wife has told me that, but I know that I've worked just enough because I really don't have any excess. I don't have
Right.
anything left over, which tells me I've worked just enough.
Yeah.
But I want to get to a point where I'm uh, I'm getting ahead a little bit to where I can do something once in a while. Or
Right.
like my youngest boy Noah, we've still got him for a few years and whatnot. Maybe we could go do something, make some memories and whatnot.
Absolutely.
So
You got plenty of memories to make in Montana because it's a game rich environment. And it just, do does he hunt with you? Has he hunted with you?
he'll go. He'll go. He's not hunting yet, but he's got a little bow he shoots and whatnot, a long bow I made him,
Mhm.
and he's kind of take it or leave it. You know, I don't force it on him. I don't want any of the kids to ever feel like, oh, I'm just doing this because, dad really wanted me to. Like if they're not
Sure.
interested, I'm not going to force them.
I got you.
I just always kind of had that attitude. Like if you are interested, I can show you everything I know, and I'd be happy to.
So it's funny. I have a target range in the backyard, 3D targets. I got pig, of course, because we're here in pig and rich environment, and I've got a deer target. So my grandson, Jax, I got a target that's it's a like a psycho clown looking target.
Oh, nice.
Three,
I
and
like that. Yeah.
it's filled with late red latex paint. So when you shoot it, it bleeds. He was like, "Oh, what's going on with this thing?" He thought that was the coolest thing in the planet.
Right.
So obviously it's shot up now. So I put it out on the curb to be taken by the garbage men. And the garbage men were asking me, what's all this goo coming out of it? And I'm like, it's
Right.
fake blood. Because you're weird, man.
Things that they make to attract the different type of people that maybe normally wouldn't get involved. Right.
Exactly. Exactly. So when I bought it, it
I used to
accidentally
put
got shipped to
balloons
my
and
when I bought it, it accidentally got shipped to my old address in Maryland. Luckily, I know a lot of people there. So I told them, hey, dude, it's over at there. Knock on their door. If they have it, just grab it and mail
yeah.
it back to me. I'll pay you for the shipping. And they did. So, so Jim, how can people get a hold of you?
I typically just have people call me or text me. I've got the website centaurarchery.com. They can email me from there. But and again, if I miss somebody's call, I get back to them. I check my phone daily. I'm on it. All that. But and I encourage people to call with questions or ask because yes, I'm busy and all that, but I always take time because it's important. I don't want people to feel like a number when they call me.
Right,
I want to hear about what they're interested in, what their questions are,
right.
and I'll always take time to answer that and make them feel comfortable about
Yeah,
anything that we're talking.
I'm of the same mindset because there's so much information that I don't have the patience to send an IM like 5 paragraphs long. Just call me.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
and again, that's a lot of times the easiest way. I mean, it'd take a month of Sundays to text to write it back and forth, and sometimes I just like people to give me a call. We can have a quick conversation,
mhm.
or whatever. If it turns lengthy, it turns lengthy. But I love answering questions. With what I do, I don't have a problem educating people about different things that I do and dynamics of it, and figuring out what they're looking for, what I can help them with.
Yep. So what's
And
your
then when
phone
I learn a
number?
little bit about somebody, I'm able to help them.
Excellent. What is your phone number?
It's 406
Excellent.
And it's been that way for about 30 years, I think.
Well, good, good. So, Jim, Centaur Archery, I want to thank you so much on behalf of the Drop Time Traditions podcast on YouTube and Spotify for those that like to listen to stuff when they're driving. Please like, subscribe, share. Um, Thank you again from the bottom of our hearts here for coming on. I really appreciate it, Jim. And stay in touch.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right,
You
brother.
bet.
I'm signing off now.
See you, buddy.
Adios.
Talk to you later.
All right, buddy. Bye bye.